Hello, my name is Wyatt Vaneman, and I did my case study on the LinkedIn 2021 data breaches. In 2021, LinkedIn suffered two major data breaches, one in April and one in June. In all, after both data breaches, over 1 billion LinkedIn users were affected. In the April data breach, 500 million users had their data stolen by the hacker known as Tom Liner, who also gained access to user data by exploiting a vulnerability in LinkedIn's API software. In June of 2021, another 700 million users' records were stolen by the same hacker, Tom Liner. In both cases, the stolen data was posted for sale on the dark web by Tom Liner. These two data breaches saw over 1 billion users' records stolen, caused LinkedIn data breaches to be one of, if not the biggest breaches in the last 10 years, if not all time. In this case study, I will look at the 2021 data breaches from the legal, ethical, and human aspects. The first aspect I will look at it from is the legal analysis. After the data breaches in April and June of 2021, LinkedIn did not suffer any serious legal ramifications. The main reason why LinkedIn didn't suffer any serious legal trouble from the US government is because there's virtually no US laws that hold companies responsible for data breaches. The only US laws that affect companies that suffer data breaches is the Federal Trade Commission Act, which according to the Legal Protection for Data and Security article, quote, the only legislation on data protection is found in the Federal Trade Commission Act, which empowers the FCC to bring action against companies that use deceiving practices against users and fail to provide adequate security for user data, unquote. The reason why the FTC did not go after LinkedIn legally was because LinkedIn agreed to offer free credit monitoring to their users, and because the FTC didn't believe that the FTC believed that LinkedIn provided adequate security for their users. Even though the federal laws didn't affect LinkedIn, they were somewhat affected by state protection laws. All 50 states have laws about data protection after data breaches and require the affected company to notify users and the state government about the data breach. Also, these laws forced LinkedIn to offer free credit monitoring to all affected users. But even after billions of users were affected by these data breaches, LinkedIn still claimed that users' data was safe and that users should not be worried. Though LinkedIn wasn't really punished by the state or federal governments, they may be affected by civil lawsuits. This is because users who had their data stolen may be able to sue LinkedIn, but they would have to prove in court that they were affected by these data breaches financially, personally. Users would also have to prove that LinkedIn caused the data breach to occur because of poor security policies, not patching vulnerabilities. Alright, the next way I will analyze the LinkedIn data breach is the ethical analysis of it. Even though LinkedIn didn't suffer much legal trouble from these data breaches, they did suffer ethically. One of the biggest things that the breaches caused was how they changed many users' perception of LinkedIn and Microsoft, which is the parent company of LinkedIn. The data breaches also made users question if LinkedIn and other Microsoft services were secure, causing many users not to use LinkedIn or Microsoft services anymore. Another way that LinkedIn was affected ethically by the loss of trust by the company was by the company's shareholders. In the How to Compensate a Data Breach article, it says, quote, several studies show that data breaches announcements have significant negative effects on organizations' market value and shareholders' wealth, unquote. Shareholders can have a significant impact on LinkedIn in two ways. One is because they can influence users into not using LinkedIn, and the second way is that since LinkedIn is losing market value because of these data breaches, and that means the shareholders are also losing money, which may cause them to go after LinkedIn to update their security policies, their security, and update any vulnerabilities that may have occurred. Another way that LinkedIn was ethically affected by these data breaches was because the users now believe that LinkedIn does not secure their software, thus affecting those users if those users will use LinkedIn or Microsoft products in the future. Even though LinkedIn already had one data breach, they still didn't patch the vulnerabilities in the API, causing the second data breach, which caused users not to trust them with their security anymore. The third way that I will analyze the LinkedIn data breach is the human analysis of it. Humans were also affected by the LinkedIn data breach. Humans were affected by possibly causing the data breach, and users were affected from the data breach. One of the ways that the data breach could have been caused was by human error. This is because LinkedIn refused to update any API security patch vulnerabilities after the first data breach, which caused the second data breach to occur. According to the Risks and Anatomy of Data Breach article, quote, nearly half of all data breaches are attributable to human error, with 35% of those incidents being caused by a single individual, unquote. There are many ways that LinkedIn can ensure that data breaches don't happen in the future, the biggest being constantly training employees on what to look for with security, any vulnerabilities to look for. This is to avoid future attacks and vulnerabilities. Another human aspect of this that could have caused these data breaches is the managers and organizational higher-ups in the company. They could be at fault because they may not have balanced security and profit, causing vulnerabilities to occur and not having a good security policy. And they didn't ensure that enough was done to ensure that these data breaches cannot occur. Another human implication of these data breaches was the users who had their data stolen and are now facing financial loss and having their data put on sale on the dark web. According to the Incidents and Consequences of Data Breaches article, quote, customers worry about time, financial and material losses occurring after a data breach, unquote. Keeping users' data safe is important because it ensures that they are not financially affected, and it also ensures that users will continue to use Microsoft or use LinkedIn's and Microsoft services. In conclusion, the LinkedIn data breaches were some of the biggest data breaches in the last 10 years, if not all time. These data breaches compromised millions of user records and caused a lot of harm to LinkedIn. When it comes to the legal implications, LinkedIn was not seriously punished by state or federal laws. The only way that LinkedIn could legally be held accountable is through civil lawsuits by users. LinkedIn and Microsoft were both affected ethically by these data breaches because the data breaches caused them to receive a bad reputation based off how they handled these breaches. This bad reputation will cause them to lose business and profit value because their users and shareholders no longer trust them. Finally, there were many human implications of these data breaches, those being human error of the employees who may have caused the data breaches through human error, higher-ups that may not have used the right balancing of security and balance of security and profit, and the billions of users who were affected by these data breaches. And those are my references, and this is the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening.